Hi, and welcome to the Home Improvement Podcast bonus festive episode, which I'm really excited about because it means that I'm getting the Christmas tree and Christmas lights out soon, but also really anxious about because of all of the extra pressures and organising and just the general lead up to it. So for those of you who have listened before, you know that we know Kate from Ace Your Space Home Organising, and I am looking forward to hearing some tips and tricks of making it a lot easier and smoother. So welcome, Kate.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's lovely to be here. For those of you that haven't listened to my previous episode, my name's Kate. I'm the founder of Ace Your Space Professional Home Organising, and I help busy women and their families feel the life-changing impact of living with less through decluttering and putting in bespoke systems into homes so that you can do the things you love rather than spending time sorting out your home all the time.
I think we all need that. All needs reviewing, I think, from time to time as well.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
So obviously those are all really important things all year round. But I think when you come to the festive period, there tends to be a change up. So you've got your wardrobe changes, you've got decorations that come out and need space. Stuff that might be going away and extra people visiting. So kind of a huge amount of things to think about on top of the excitement and social demands that are kind of added in. In terms of renovations, I've got, tips that you should be considering when you're doing that, but generally planning and organising for that changeover. What tips do you have for making that a little less stressful?
Well, I think the first thing that I would say is there's a lot of pressure, isn't there, from external sources about having the perfect Instagram, perfect Christmas, and
yes,
all the adverts on TV where you see all these families having a lovely time. And the reality is life isn't quite like that, is it? We're all trying to, do our jobs, look after the kids, all the busy things that we have going on. People have caring responsibilities. And for some people, Christmas or the other festive celebrations aren't actually something that they struggle at that time of year. So, whatever sort of stage of life you're in, whatever personal circumstances you're in, it's different for everyone, isn't it? And I think the first thing that's really important is just sitting down and speaking with the family. And what I mean by this is just finding out, what does everyone need over Christmas? What are the really important things, the non-negotiables? Then what would everybody like? And then it's about working out how then you can provide this Christmas that everyone's kind of, put out on the table, and then allocating who's responsible, because actually it doesn't always have to land with one person. So, the kids can get involved. They can be contributing, and it can be in small ways if they're little. But if everyone has a role in bringing that, Christmas, family Christmas or dream Christmas, or if you're on your own, it might be what plans you're going to make with friends. What joy can you bring for your Christmas in whatever situation you're in. So that'd be the first thing is, and then once you've got that, then you can start making a plan and lists. I love a list. I think that's a neurodivergent thing particularly, is that I live by a list. I have to have everything written down, otherwise I won't remember it. If it's not on a list, it doesn't happen in my house. And I actually have separate lists. So I have a food list of what we're doing food-wise. I have a gift list, and then I have a list of the sort of miscellaneous things. So that for our family might be booking the Father Christmas visit, which I definitely need to do. That's on my list. And it'll have all those things. It might be that you're having guests to stay. So all of those sorts of things would go on my miscellaneous list. So definitely plan and keep things simple. There's some quick wins that you can do. So if you always send Christmas cards, for instance, then maybe this year, if you're really struggling, don't send them, donate to charity, and just send everyone, send a group message that just says that that's what you're doing this year. Doesn't mean that you have to do that every year, but, if you've got a year that you're particularly struggling with, that's a really easy win. Then I would say, look at all your decor as well. Do you need to have such a seasonal switch up? Because that all takes time and effort. And if you're someone that absolutely loves that and it brings you lots of joy, then, crack on. But actually, if you're just doing it because you feel pressure to do it, you just don't have to. It's quite simple.
And you don't need to justify it either.
No, you don't need to justify it. You just need to do what's right for you and your family. And that's all that's important. And I think that leads nicely on to saying no. You don't have to do all the things.
Really?
You don't. Particularly if you're neurodivergent as well, creating some time to kind of reset after social events is really important. Because it can really drain you. Resetting after social events, not even going to all of them if you don't want to, choose what you love. And think back to when you were a kid and what you remember at Christmas and what's important. And it wasn't the seasonal decor. It wasn't how many Christmas cards you got. It was all about having those fun, memorable times with your family. So what fun, memorable times are you going to create for yourself or your family this year? And that's what's important. And I think that helps strip out all the unnecessary.
I think also a lot of, with the perfect scenario that's created on Instagram, you also have that pressure to have the matching family jumpers and the perfect trip away if you're not the one hosting. And the reality of this is, have I packed everything? Did I forget everything? And that extra pressure that you put on. And when you're talking about potentially going away, you can start that planning earlier. Perhaps you could use a space to start packing sooner and getting the bits and pieces together much sooner in the month and breaking that down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think starting small early is absolutely key, because you don't want everything to hit you in December, because that would be literally like being, it's hard enough anyway without them thinking, oh my God, I've got everything to do. So start early, typically in November, you want to start getting those lists written. You want to make sure that you're breaking down the tasks, making sure that there's a split responsibility for everything. You don't want to take everything on yourself, and make sure that you're speaking out. If you're struggling, communicate that. It's the sometimes miscommunication is where things break down and it gets tense. If you can kind of hit that with actually, I just need a rest. I need to recover from that. That will make things much easier. Decluttering is critical before Christmas, but you don't want to be, now is not the time to be thinking, I'm going to declutter my whole house and do a sort your life out episode. That's not the way forward. November and December is not the time to completely declutter your whole house unless you've got plenty of time or some professional help like me coming in and doing it for you. I would say start small and focus on the areas that already cause friction, that when people come into the house or Christmas happens or another festive celebration happens, it's calmer and it'll be those little wins. So for instance, if you're going to be entertaining and so you're going to be cooking for lots and lots of people, look at your pots and pans cupboard, look at your mug cupboard. You're going to be making lots of teas for everyone. Let's be realistic about what you need. Can you access everything easily? You might want to look at any crockery that you only use at Christmas time, for instance. Not that I advise this, because as you know, Elizabeth, I always say you want to be using all your best stuff all the time. But there are people that do like to have...
A Santa plate is not going to cut it in July at the barbecue.
That's true. That is true. And there, I try and be minimal, and I use the same crockery all year round. But I know there are lots of people and it brings lots of joy for them to have. And if you've got the space and it brings you joy, then that is fantastic. But now's the time to start thinking about where that is, where do you store it most of the year, and starting to maybe rotate your crockery out so you can integrate it in without kind of making everything too cramped. So that's definitely, and start small. So I'm talking like, these are 10-minute jobs, once or twice a week, so that they're manageable and doable. It's again, breaking it down, just like with the planning, breaking it down into small chunks.
I think where you've said about lists, I have a favourite type of list that I make in these types of events, and they are timing lists. So I was trained by my mother, military operation, up at 6 a.m. and this is what you're doing.
Wow.
So I make timing lists on the lead up to an event and then during that day so that everyone knows what I expect. But to keep things on, I know things kind of change, especially if I'm cooking. Those timings tend to go out. But having that as a guide is really helpful. And since I did my renovation, which I'll tell you about the Christmas experience later, I've hosted Christmas quite a lot since my renovation, and I found it really useful utilising some of those functions that people never really look into on the appliances. So being able to utilize my steam and my meat probe so I don't have to worry if something's cooked is one thing, but also being able to delay start or use the Wi-Fi to turn something down or start it from another room so I don't have to break away from the games that we're playing, essentially making it a lot easier and more streamlined. Those are things that I've found of benefit that I never even considered as useful before I engaged in using them. And the other thing is making sure, for me in my home, is making sure that it's been planned that people can come and get themselves a drink. So I'm a come in and make yourself at home host, as opposed to I'm going to do every tiny little thing, because I can't take on that much responsibility and get it right. I will drop the tea on the way in and things. So I kind of encourage people to treat my home like their own, and if they want a cup of tea, everything is out, they can see clearly where it is, they can get to it without getting into kind of the cooking zone and in crossing paths and not having enough space. So I think that's kind of another preparation that you can think about. How are people going to get the milk to make the tea while you're perhaps turning over the roast potatoes or checking the meat or heating up the plates or whatever that is. It's kind of thinking about those things as well, I think are important. So they seem like small things, but I think they really add to the stress if they're overlooked, and overall sucks the enjoyment out of the whole experience.
That is such a good point and such a good idea. You're almost setting up like a drink zone, aren't you?
Yeah.
So that people can help themselves and it's not in your way. And I love that, because it does get stressful when you feel like you've got to do everything. And I think that's why having an organised kitchen is so important, because then it does make it easy for anybody entering your home to find everything. When we organise homes, we always put labels on things because that's part of the system. It's one of the critical parts of the system, because it's that constant reminder of telling you where things belong. So even if you naturally know, not everyone in the family can retain that sort of information, or it doesn't, and it's just seeing those labels that really lock in where things belong. And no one has an excuse then either, do they?
No.
Which is, they can open up the cupboards and find what they need. So yes, I love that. And it's stressful. And I hadn't even thought about the Wi-Fi functionality, because we've actually had a new hob with Wi-Fi functionality. And I just hadn't got really any didn't really know what to do with that. So I will talk to you later about that, because that could make a big difference at Christmas.
It's so strange, all of these things that are available in the market that people just don't know how to use. It's there, use it, find out how to. And even boiling water taps is something people say is a real kind of luxury. But in those moments when people are coming in and that you might make 16 cups of tea that day, it's there, it's instant. They're out of the kitchen really quickly because they're not waiting for the kettle to boil. It's not who boiled the kettle. It's not waiting for the gravy. All of those things just become much shorter, condensed tasks, allowing you to do other things that are more enjoyable. Although I do appreciate a lot of the good conversations happen in the kitchen.
But if you're not in the kitchen because you're in the living room switching everything on with your Wi-Fi.
Still on your phone.
Then at least you're enjoying the games, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it, indeed.
So in terms of guests, Elizabeth, do you often host and have guests stay?
But so I don't have that many guests over because I need to have time to be able to unwind. But when I do host, I do really enjoy it. But everyone needs to know what's happening. I find it difficult if people arrive early, because I've got that plan of when these things are going to happen, and being able to know that those are out of the way so that I'm not stressed or forgetting anything can become quite taxing. So I smile because I know my partner would instantly say, no, she plans the house for these events that happen a handful of times in the last few years. But we'll have parents over when they were able to. So it was really important to me to make sure the house had space for them to move around, and with mobility issues and things, it being nice and clear and them comfortable in that space as well, wherever they wanted to be, and it just not be isolating for anyone. And again, just being able to be quick. My mother-in-law now has Parkinson's, and impulse control becomes an issue. So being able to respond quickly to her need for a cup of tea or to move, and assistance is much more prominent for me.
Yeah.
And in this Christmas period, that's something that we're going to need to adapt to. It's going to be the first time that we've had that experience, and being able to adjust our lives for that and respond and make it less stress-free and be enjoyable. Because when people are getting older, you never know when that, without being morbid, you never know when that last experience is going to be. So being able to enjoy that is really important. And yeah, if things go slightly wrong, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We don't need Instagram lives. We need to live in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important, isn't it? And I think going back to that point about when guests stay, we have our in-laws will stay with us every other Christmas. And I know for those of you that have guests coming this Christmas, those spare rooms can be a little bit of a dumping ground sometimes if you've got the luxury of having a spare room, or maybe you need to chuck one of the kids out because that's where they're going to be staying. So definitely have a think about that and include that in your decluttering plan. You know, make sure, are you going to have to move beds, add beds in? You know, like you were saying about mobility issues, we often have to move our bed. They sleep in my daughter's bedroom now because instead of having a spare room, we've created an office. So when anyone comes to stay, my daughter gets chucked out of her room and we move her bed into the middle so that they can get out either side of the bed. So it's things like that. And then you're like, oh gosh, actually to move the bed, we need to move X, Y, and Z. So it's very important that you don't have clutter, especially in spare rooms. And if you've got, you know, the dreaded vintage piles that you've not sold yet, or those bags for charity, now is the time to get rid of them. And actually you can add that to all your decluttering that you're doing up until Christmas and just send the whole lot off. And then instantly your home will feel so much calmer. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good points, definitely. And as you say that, I'm picturing the charity bag and the coat hangers that are on my spare bed. I just went yesterday, actually. I've had quite a lot of charity stuff in the house because I've been doing a bit of a declutter myself. And I've had a few clients that I've said, look, I'll take your stuff as well because I'm going anyway. And I went to get my nails done yesterday and it was right by the charity shop. And I put them in my boot just in case I passed a charity shop. And so I was able to offload it all yesterday, which was fantastic. So, and the feeling you get from that is amazing. And I think as well as doing the decluttering, also just think about creating a bit of space in the wardrobe for them to put their belongings, or clear a drawer, you know, just so that they can put things away, particularly if they're staying more than, you know, a couple of days or whatever, just so that people, you know, aren't tripping over their suitcase, particularly if they've got mobility issues, and just, making sure the floor is clear. But again, start early, you know, get that wardrobe cleared, put fresh bed linen on. And then, you know, you're then free to enjoy the run up to Christmas as well. It's not so stressful.
That is all well and good. But if you're undertaking a renovation, or you think starting in September and you're going to complete a big renovation beforehand, that throws everything into the air. And we were talking just before we started that I started my own renovation in August. So thought, well, great, this is all going to be completed. It was during COVID and my windows didn't turn up. So I ended up...
Oh my goodness.
I ended up living with acros, which are the posts that hold your house up, windowless, boarded in. I ended up put fairy lights over the posts and things to give me some kind of sense of cheer in what we had to kind of live with. Plugged in heaters. and yeah, just kind of live through a very disrupted Christmas period. So it can be challenging for a number of different reasons. On that lead up, from my experience of people looking at an end of year project, I think planning to be the host that year is always risky, because the chances of things not being at the level that you want to present them to, because a lot of people want to present their house and show off and show their loved ones and their friends how much they've put in and their vision at that point of time, and invite them in, but can't always deliver it because it's not always completed.
No.
Those decoration might not be there. A part might be out of stock. Just being able to get that organisation and everything put away can become very, very challenging, if not impossible.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we also started our renovation in August, hoping to be back in for December and hosting. We weren't back in December. We didn't move back until the end of January, and it still wasn't finished at that point. So I would definitely say, if you're doing an end of year project, or even starting in the summer, I would not commit to hosting family over the festive period. I would literally use that as your one opportunity to make sure you're going somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely.
And, think about a nice summer party instead, when it's all definitely going to be done, because it's already a stressful period enough. And I know, and you probably felt the same, having that whole, are we going to have even a cooker in time for Christmas? We had a major problem with our floor, which delayed everything, and it wasn't high enough, basically, and we had to wait extra weeks for it to dry out. And I think we weren't even finished when I celebrated my birthday in March, and we had a party and the floor still wasn't down at that point. So everything else was done, but we did have to wait a long time for the floor. And I think my husband went to IKEA and bought some rugs just to make the floor so that when we had people over, it was okay. So it can really impact. And I think Christmas and any festive celebrations are stressful enough. You don't need the addition of hosting when you're doing a renovation. I just think make that your year, that you give your excuses. That's when you can say no and feel, okay about it.
Yeah, definitely good advice. But that goes all year round. If someone's getting married, maybe a child's getting married, or you're getting married yourself, having that those being too close, they're likely to overlap. The added stress, it's going to be problematic. Big birthdays, if you're going to be hosting a big birthday, that's probably not wise to plan around that time. Try to look elsewhere for those venues and things as well.
Yeah, I always think, whatever kind of estimate you're given in terms of how long it would take, always add some extra months onto the end of that.
Double it,
yeah. Just to make sure you're properly in the clear, like you say, for any major events. Definitely, it's it's hard, and I think when you're doing a renovation so close to December, or finishing coming up to December, you just don't need the added stress. So all those quick wins that I mentioned earlier, that's when you literally do all of those. You forget about the decor. You maybe just put up the tree and the fairy lights, and you keep it really simple.
Yeah. I think also, unless you're employing someone like yourself to come in and do the organisation and the unpacking of all of your items, the likelihood of you still having 50% of those boxes in storage or in the garage is really high as well. And that's when you realise you don't have things that you thought you did to hand as well. So allowing yourself that time, or employing someone like yourself to come in and do that organisation and take that stress away. Factor in early
yes, absolutely.
Makes a big difference too.
It does. But yeah, I think when you're coming up to Christmas, just think, how can I simplify it? How can I plan for it better? And how can I break that plans down into something that's manageable and that just taking chunk-sized pieces? Something that we always do now is, we used to have that stressful Christmas Eve. I don't know why, but it was always Christmas Eve and we're wrapping up presents at like 2 a.m. and then be
Why did you not do it before?
Why
You've
did we
had
not
them.
do it before? Yeah, this is the thing. We've had them for ages. And now actually we always make sure, well, we gift a lot of experiences now rather than gifts or like physical gifts, because in January, you'll be thanking me when you have less items in your home and all the decors come down. You'll feel like quite calm because you'll have done that decluttering, of course, before Christmas. You'll have had less come into your home and it's so much calmer. So we do a lot of experiences. We do now all our wrapping, usually about the week before, few days before. And Christmas Eve now is just me and a chance for me and my partner. We just sit down and enjoy the evening and just do something nice. And just, it's really relaxing. And it's that kind of reset before the big day.
So this year, will you be hosting?
No, that was us last year. So this year we're actually going to my in-laws for Christmas. So for us, it's all about making sure that, you know, we've got the presents that we need to take with us in the car. Everyone's got what they need. It's all that kind of packing and kind of taking your entire Christmas life up to the in-laws and then coming back and then all the chaos after, because then you have all the washing and
finding new homes for things.
And it can be quite chaotic, can't it? So, you know, we always try and make sure we've done that declutter before Christmas, just simply because then we know that when we're bringing gifts into the home, because although we're giving experiences, the kids are still getting physical gifts. As much as we try and, you know, put it to experiences, we still get some physical gifts coming in. So it's kind of making sure I know where they're going to go in the
declutter their toys beforehand.
Exactly, so that we've got spaces for the new things coming in.
Fab. Well, thank you very much for your time once again, Kate.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure as always.
Don't forget to like, share and comment on the post, and you will find the link to Kate's Instagram in the comments, which is @yourspace_Kate.
That's correct.
And get in touch if you could use with some of her experience and organisation in your own home.
Thanks, Elizabeth.